Last.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Terre Haute City Council to order, 6 p.m. Thursday, March 12, 2020. We will begin with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance led by our City Attorney, Eddie Feld.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Caught you off guard there.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Aller.
Present.
Councilperson Azar.
President.
Councilperson Dolan. Councilperson Crossen.
Present.
Councilperson DeBon.
Here.
Councilperson Elliott.
Here.
Councilperson Garrison.
Present.
Councilperson Loudermilk.
Present.
Councilperson Nation.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. Before I begin tonight with the 30 minutes of public comment, I would like to make a statement. This afternoon, Governor Holcomb announced additional steps the state will take to reduce the spread of the coronavirus in Indiana. Also this afternoon, we received an email from Mayor Bennett regarding the city's position regarding this virus. It is evident by all the events of the past several days that this virus will continue to disrupt our daily routines. The mayor indicated that the city will take whatever steps are necessary to protect the health and well-being of the citizens and employees of this city when and if that time should arise. It is my hope that within the next few weeks, the spread of this virus will be contained and we will all be able to return to our normal lives. However, in the event things continue as they are or become worse, as president of the City Council, I will monitor the situation and if necessary, will ask the council to suspend our rules and revise some of our meeting requirements. That will include, but will not be limited to, only allowing discussion and attendance to meetings by those directly involved in any business before this council. If it becomes necessary, there will be no public discussion on matters not pertinent to that particular meeting. Since we do not meet again until April 2nd, it is my hope that the threat will pass and we will be able to continue our meetings as we do now. I ask that the public bear with us and know that whatever the outcome, the best interests of the public's health will take precedence. With that said, we will now allow 30 minutes of public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that? Mr. Hyde.
Once again, what I was going to say, I have to go back to my impromptu days. My name is Donald Hyde. I live at Terre Haute, Indiana, and I've lived here all my life. I believe the nation as a whole is being, by the media, by every possible way, they are creating a false, very false, pandemic. It doesn't exist. This has been told to us, and we found it through national, world, and local events. This so-called pandemic is like the flu. I got news for you. You don't take my word for anything. Look it up yourself. Look up how many people have died in the last 10 years from the flu. It is in the large numbers. Large numbers. Yet we don't panic about it because the flu's been around. We understand it. I've had the flu in my lifetime at least 6 or 7 times. Twice after I've suffered 2 heart attacks. You know, that so-called, if you have prior problems, watch out, this is going to kill you. I'm still alive. Now, granted, I don't like getting the flu, and I certainly don't like getting pneumonia, which I've also survived twice after the heart attacks. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned. Just like I am concerned about getting the flu. I do all kinds of stuff to wash my hands, to keep myself clean, to keep my house reasonably clean, at least where I'm at in the house, reasonably clean. Why? I don't want to get germs of any kind, especially no new germs. And they're getting away with doing this to us because it's from China. The last time we had diseases that supposedly were going to bring Hammock to America, and we only got to go back 5 years. It didn't turn out to be a thing. It almost, one of them was a hoax, and the other one was not as bad as they thought it was going to be. And it didn't spread at all. In fact, it literally went away. We've been told that these are new things. Well, I encourage each one of you to get a Lysol spray can. You know, the one that talks about taking care of viruses and germs. If you look at the back of the can, both those two viruses they're talking about are listed. Now, Lysol was invented around World War II, 60 years ago. And so these so-called viruses that are new, they're on that can, on the original ingredient label, what it would do. Now, 60 years ago, these viruses were known. Why haven't we followed them a little closer and known what they can do? I think they do, and I think China has already proven that. They've got theirs on the decline and going to make it back. And again, if China was more free with medical knowledge like we are here in America, we'd find out that a lot of the people that died were either really young and hadn't got their immune system developed by nature, or they were old with pre-existing conditions. They just, you know, it would be like the flu in America getting them. It happens. Your job is to not panic the people, but inform the people of what they can do to prevent catching the diseases. And if they get it, how to best treat themselves so they can overcome it. And one of the things you treat...
You need to wrap it up, Mr.
I am. That's what I'm doing right now. One of the things we don't teach, we don't say enough on the news, how do you keep yourself, not just from getting it, but if you get it, how do you make yourself better? How do you survive the disease? Now, I'm telling you right now, I'm living proof you can survive the flu, the pneumonia, because I've done it multiple times. But you do it by making your immune system stronger and by eating when you should eat and not eating when you shouldn't eat. And you do it with your mind. You have to want to hang in there. I'm telling you, your own personal want is the key to surviving anything.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Let's see.
My name's Kevin Southwood. I live over on the Avenues, and I got a great idea. And how I know it was a great idea, because I looked into the book of Kevin, and it told me it was. So, this is a box, both of them, and they say suggestion and comments on it. And the reason why I got that is, it's because of how effective our governments are. You know, if you got a suggestion, you know, person come up here, they just take a one out, leave it in a box or something, you know, and then you would know how many people offered suggestions last time, then, or comments. You know, comments wouldn't really be a big deal. Suggestions would be what citizens would like to see. Then you would report, like, we got 20 suggestions, and we thought about a couple of them, you know, but we haven't done anything, you know, or we might try to do one thing. So you would have to say, you know, like if you had like 20 people speak, and you maybe thought about one and you haven't adopted it, but you might try and do it down the road, then, you know, for the value and the ratio of people's suggestions that are being taken care of by city government, it is pretty low. And I'm not trying to like berate any of you at all, but it's really, it's to show how effective a government is, or how ineffective a government is for the citizens. And so, you know, I think that right now you guys could say, you know, if you adopted this, you know, you could very well say that you are the first city government, or the first government on earth that has allowed the people to know how effective that their government is or how ineffective their government is. You know, you could be the first body of government that could say, hey, you know, we want to tell you the truth, no matter how bad it is. You know, and then when people start seeing that, you know, and you could issue a challenge to all the other city governments, you know, when people start seeing the real truth of how effective or ineffective their government is, then you have to look on how are we going to improve our system of government, you know, of the people, you know, until we know how many bad things we got, you know, and where we need to try and go to correct that. You know, we're still going to be, you know, going down there, you know, for decades and decades where, you know, governments don't do anything, you know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Southwood. Any other comments from the public? Corrections to the journal?
There are none.
Communications from the mayor?
I did not receive any.
Reports from city officials? At this point in time, if there are no objections, I would like to reappoint Chris Garner to the Information Technology Board. He is asked to serve again. If there's no objections, if we want to have a motion on that. Okay?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay, it's been moved by Councilperson DeBon, seconded by Councilperson Nation, that we appoint Chris Garner to the reappoint Chris Garner to the Information Technology Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. At this point in time, I don't know how many, I would assume all of you got the email that I sent out concerning the ad hoc committee. Again, I apologize. I know that there were some names that were presented by others that I just felt like at that point in time, now we do have 16 members, not 15, as a matter of fact, so you'll know we added one more this afternoon. Because I wanted, hopefully, to have representation from all those that could give some kind of insight and help with the parking and the downtown development. I would like to thank Councilperson Nation. He gave me a few names that I did include on this committee, and I certainly appreciate that. I will chair this committee because our rules state that there can only be one chair per committee, so I decided to go ahead and just chair this at this time, and hopefully within the next week or two, we'll have meetings set up so that we can meet with those that are involved. If anyone would like to know who's on the committee, I do have a list here, and you're more than welcome to have that list. The media, you're welcome to have that list. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilperson Nation.
George, thank you so much for your work on this. I know that when we proposed it, I didn't mean for it to be an additional burden for you as president, especially with chairing it and all that, but I'm grateful that you're going to do it. Thank you for listening to the suggestions that I gave. And just one bit of information. In a brief conversation with Mayor Bennett about this committee and some other stuff a couple of days ago, he stated that his calendar is mostly open through the end of this year because he's recovering from shoulder surgery. So, because I was asking him about scheduling meetings and his availability and all that. So my only suggestion is let's try to get at least one meeting in before Duke's schedule fills back up.
Okay.
By the end of this month.
We're going to try to look.
Did I said the end of this year, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you meant
the end of
this
this.
month.
I meant by the end of this month.
Okay, yeah, we will try to do that, and if we can get together on a date, we'll send an email out to those involved. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there are none, reports to the Board of Public Works and Safety,
I did not receive any.
standing committees,
I do not know of any.
non-standing committees,
I do not know of any.
items previously tabled,
There are none.
tax abatements for confirmation,
There are none.
items on second reading,
We have one. Special Ordinance 2, 2020, rezoning of property located at 4207 East Margaret Avenue. Area Planning gave a favorable with conditions recommendation. We have a request from the petitioner's attorney to table this until April 9th, 2020.
Okay, do I have a motion from anyone on the floor? Councilperson Aller?
I move that we table Special Ordinance 2 to 2020 until April 9th of 2020.
Second. Been moved by Councilperson Aller, second by Councilperson Garrison, that we table Special Ordinance 2, 2020 until when? I'm sorry, I didn't...
April 9th.
Until April 9th. Any discussion? Comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Items, first reading.
Resolution 1, 2020, authorizing the submission of the 2020 Annual Consolidated Plan.
Anyone here to speak on this?
Mr. President, members of council, my name is Phil Kessner. I'm with the Department of Redevelopment. This resolution is to authorize the mayor to submit the entitlement grant applications for the HUD funds. We've anticipated about a $100,000 reduction because Congress passed the budget, but they still don't have the appropriations finalized. Once we receive the allocation amount, we can adjust it either up or down based on the true values. You were given a summary that shows we're going to continue with infrastructure improvements, rehabilitation of community centers or neighborhood centers, and the demolition of structures.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Hyde.
Excuse me.
Now that I'm more familiar with what this term is, I have a few questions. But right now, it seems like the federal government's not helping us out by cutting the budget by the amount they did. That will make it harder for us to build low-cost housing, be harder to remodel or fix up the community centers. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. Any other questions or comments from the public? Council? Councilperson Nation.
Phil, I see that the estimate is about $1.43 million for 2020. That's correct?
Yes.
And are you thinking that it's going to be $100,000 less than that?
No, last year was $1,534,000.
Okay.
I'd rather build in a reduction and then tell people we got more money than to budget what we had last year and then tell them, one year we had a $325,000 reduction. It was real hard to decide which projects to extract from that, so.
Yeah, I know that this HUD money makes up a pretty big chunk of the finances of redevelopment. Approximately what percentage is that?
Well, aside from the TIF allocations, that's the only funds that the department receives, and it's primarily what funds are salaries and the administrative costs to operate the Department of Redevelopment. So it's just a little under $2 million. Since 2003, it's been reduced for almost $1.1 million per year just in the CDBG category, which we'll never see it rise back to that. But especially with the census, every year a city goes over 50,000, they're entitled to get a grant as long as they go through the planning process, so the pie gets cut into smaller pieces.
Yeah, and we're still hovering around 60,000 souls in Terre Haute, so
Yeah.
we're in the clear, and presumably we'll continue to be an entitlement community for the foreseeable future, right?
Yes.
Can you, but to get back to my question, if the CDBG money is about $1.5 million, what's the total budget of the Department of Redevelopment when you add in the TIF money that you're administering? Because you can take a fraction of that for administration, right?
No, we can only, when we have active projects, we can oversee the projects when they take place, but we can't use it for the admin costs, just for general planning and other types of things. So it has to be tied directly to a TIF project. So the city would then have to fund, if they want to keep the department functioning, we're only allowed to spend 20% of our CDBG money and 10% of our home dollars towards the admin costs.
Okay.
One reason we haven't replaced some of the staff is because they've tried to cut the budget dramatically the last 3 years. And it'd be hard to bring somebody on that has the knowledge of the federal programs. And then if we got a major cut, they'd be the first one to have to let go.
Yeah. Well, this has always been important work. What the Department of Redevelopment does for the development and maintenance of low-income housing in the community is really not done by anybody else, right?
We're the only ones that work with nonprofits to do privately funded homes. The tax credit projects that have come through, we have helped subsidize some minor portion of that, but we're helping with 2 community centers right now to try to leverage historic landmark funds and other private funds. So we're trying to get more value out of our dollar and accomplish more for the community.
I would note that this council has heard tax abatement requests for the YMCA project with Commonwealth Development at 6th and Walnut twice last year. We turned both of those down, but I understand that they are continuing to come at redevelopment, asking for the $500,000 that was pledged as part of their application originally. In your opinion, does what Commonwealth's proposing to do with the YMCA project fit within the mission of redevelopment and what you say what you're telling HUD you're going to do and all that?
Those are part of the TIF funds, so those are under the TIF regulations as far as public improvements. The original proposal has varied quite a bit from when they first turned in their tax credit application. So it's a matter of trying to identify how they can utilize the TIF funds for public improvements that normally go through a bidding process and that are done to supplement the project, not be a cash infusion. TIF regulations are fairly strict on that. So whether they can find a revenue stream to pass that through, I don't know. We support the revitalization of the building, the repurposing of it. Whether or not it qualifies for the TIF funds, that's something I can't address.
All right. Well, thanks for coming and answering questions. And if there's no further discussion, I move for approval of Resolution 1, 2020.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilperson Nation, seconded by Councilperson Elliott to approve Resolution 1, 2020. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed.
Thank you.
Any other business, Michelle? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Been moved by Councilperson Nation, seconded by Councilperson Aller that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here.